This is how to make a narcissist crumble inside every single day and fall apart. Narcissists. You've seen them. The ones who inhale validation the way the rest of us breathe air. Their entire world is built around a cycle of applause, admiration, and endless ego stroking. They carefully select people who will mirror back adoration, who will inflate their fragile image until it looks larger than life. Compliments, approval, and praise become their lifeline. But here's the critical truth. Strip away that fuel, and the performance begins to collapse. Without the steady stream of validation, they don't just wobble, they shatter. And that raises the question, what happens when you stop giving them what they need most? The answer is simple. They suffer, but not in a light, fleeting way. Their collapse is profound, the kind that shakes the very foundation of who they think they are. Their identity, which was always stitched together from other people's approval, begins to unravel thread by thread. You can watch them scrambling, desperately trying to reassert control over a reality they can no longer manipulate. It's chaotic, it's messy, and it's painfully revealing. It's like watching someone stumble when the floor vanishes beneath their feet. The show is over, and the illusion is broken. At their core, narcissists are painfully fragile. Everything you see on the surface, the grandiosity, the superiority, the arrogance, is nothing more than a carefully crafted disguise. And when that disguise slips, when the mask is torn away, you see what lies beneath. Panic, fear, rage. They flail, they lash out, they react like someone fighting to keep from drowning. And you suddenly have the chance to see it all for what it truly is, the raw exposure of their hollow self. That's why in this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly what unfolds when you take away a narcissist's lifeblood, their supply. You'll understand how it drives them into suffering, how it strips away the illusion, and how their behavior, once hidden behind charm and manipulation, reveals itself in its truest, most destructive form. Most importantly, you'll see how recognizing this dynamic shifts the power back into your hands, where it always should have been. So, let's begin with the very first stage of their unraveling, the moment when the grandiose mask they've clung to for so long finally begins to crack. 1. The grandiose mask shatters. Picture yourself at a magic show. The magician dazzles the audience with illusions, pulling rabbits from hats, making objects vanish, floating in the air. Everyone gasps in wonder, enchanted by the spectacle. But here's the secret. The magic only works as long as the audience keeps clapping, keeps believing. The moment the applause dies and the faith in the trick disappears, the illusion unravels, and the performance loses its power. This is exactly what happens when you stop feeding a narcissist their supply. The grand facade they've spent years constructing, the polished mask of confidence, superiority, and invincibility, begins to fracture under the weight of silence. Their magic depends entirely on your reaction. Every compliment, every word of admiration, every acknowledgement of their greatness is a brick in the structure they hide behind. Without that steady reinforcement, the cracks begin to spread, and the mask they wear so convincingly starts to crumble. When this mask breaks, something rare is exposed: their vulnerability. And for a narcissist, vulnerability is intolerable. They cannot bear the possibility of being seen as ordinary, flawed, or human. The panic sets in quickly. They scramble frantically, trying to glue the broken pieces of their image back together. They will twist the truth, spin new illusions, and manipulate anyone they can into giving them the praise and validation that once sustained them. But it's never seamless. They know the cracks are showing, and with that awareness comes their suffering. The real agony for them lies in facing the truth they've spent a lifetime running from, that without their mask, they are not larger than life, not untouchable, and not perfect. They are simply human, riddled with flaws, insecurities, and emptiness they cannot accept. And because of this, they will do whatever it takes to force the mask back on. Lies, guilt trips, and desperate attempts to reel you back into the role of adoring audience. But here's where the shift happens. You've already seen what's behind the curtain. You've glimpsed the trick for what it really is. Once that illusion is broken, they can never reclaim the same power over you. That moment, when the mask shatters, isn't just their exposure, it's your awakening. 2. Emotional turmoil unleashed. Imagine a storm tearing across the ocean. One moment the water is still, the horizon calm, the sky open and bright. Then, in the blink of an eye, the winds roar, the waves rise like giants, and chaos consumes everything in sight. That is what erupts inside a narcissist the second you cut off their supply. Narcissists don't process emotions the way you and I do. For them, every feeling is magnified, unstable, and fleeting. They ride highs that make them feel untouchable, then plunge into lows so violent it leaves them grasping for air. The reason is simple. Their entire identity is a fragile construction, a house of cards propped up by constant validation. When that validation is gone, the structure doesn't just wobble, it collapses. The aftermath is raw and ugly. You will witness the storm firsthand. Anger that comes out as volcanic rage, fear that masks itself as hostility, and an emptiness that bleeds through as anxiety and confusion. It's a spectacle of chaos, and while they scramble to reassemble some version of control, the truth is inescapable. There is no stability underneath. Their self is nothing more than a hollow performance unraveling at the seams. And here's the part most people never realize. Behind the explosions of emotion is not strength but fragility. Strip away the bluster, and you'll see a frightened child in an adult body, desperate for reassurance and terrified of being left alone with their reflection. When you refuse to play your part in the script, the cracks widen, the mask slips, and suddenly, you're not facing an all-powerful force. You're staring at someone stumbling through the wreckage of their own emptiness. This turmoil, as destructive as it seems, is also revealing. Because in their emotional disarray, they're not in control anymore. The chaos is their undoing, and for the first time, you see their powerlessness laid bare. 3. Desperation breeds manipulation. When the supply dries up, something fundamental inside the narcissist shifts. They can no longer hold on to the illusion of superiority, so they transform. That commanding figure who once seemed larger than life shrinks into someone frantic, desperate, and scrambling for scraps of attention. Their crown slips, and instead of a ruler commanding loyalty, what you see is a jester, performing tricks, weaving stories, doing whatever it takes to win the audience back. This is the stage where manipulation becomes their lifeline. To them, survival means pulling every trick they know out of the shadows. They'll wrap themselves in victimhood, weaving stories of betrayal. They'll tug on your guilt with lines like, "You've changed. You don't care anymore. I gave you everything, and this is how you repay me." Sometimes, they'll even bring out the theatrics, tears, begging, promises they have no intention of keeping. Don't be fooled. It's all performance, all carefully designed to get you to feed their starving ego again. And if the act of desperation doesn't work, the mask hardens into something darker. You may get silence, designed to punish you into submission, or sharp words, insults meant to shake your confidence, even veiled threats. Every tactic is part of their playbook, a strategy they practiced for years, recycled on anyone who dares to pull away. But no matter how elaborate the manipulation, it's just smoke and mirrors. What lies underneath is the same collapsing truth. They cannot exist without someone else's energy holding them up. And when you stop playing along, every trick they throw is nothing more than an attempt to stall the inevitable. Because here's the reality. They are not regaining control. They are buying time. Their collapse isn't a possibility. It's a certainty. And the moment you stop handing over your power, you become the one who finally sees them for what they are, a desperate actor trying to hold together a performance that is already falling apart. 4. The rage of 1,000 suns. You've seen it before, that icy stare that chills the room, the sudden shift where their face hardens and their eyes burn with something you can't quite name. It's not ordinary anger. It's something far more consuming, a force that makes the air feel heavy, like you're standing too close to a volcano just before it erupts. Their rage doesn't simply exist, it engulfs. When a narcissist loses the very thing that feeds them, the constant stream of validation, admiration, and attention, their response isn't mild irritation. It's an emotional detonation. The fuel that powered their illusion is gone, and what's left behind is unbearable. The gnawing realization that they are small, ordinary, and exposed. That blow to their ego is more than they can withstand, so they erupt with the ferocity of a collapsing star. The truth is, this rage is not strength, it's terror. They lash out because, deep inside, they are terrified of being unmasked as fraudulent, hollow, and weak. Their fury is their last weapon, their desperate attempt to claw back control of a situation slipping through their fingers. And so, the blame spills outward. You become the target. The world becomes the target. Anyone who dares to deprive them of supply is cast as the enemy, deserving of their firestorm. But here's where it all turns against them. Rage, for all its drama, doesn't fix their problem. It doesn't refill their emptiness. The more they explode, the clearer it becomes, to you, and eventually even to them, that their anger is powerless. They can scream, threaten, accuse, and intimidate, but none of it forces you to hand back the control they lost. That realization cuts deeper than anything else, and it only fuels the fire, making their fury burn hotter, wilder, and more futile. The irony is that in the moment they rage the loudest, they are also the most exposed. Their mask doesn't just slip, it shatters. And if you're watching closely, you'll see the unraveling happen in real time. Because when their wrath fails to restore what's gone, they are left with nothing but ashes. And that's when you know, you've already won. 5. Withdrawal into darkness. Not every collapse is loud. Not every implosion comes with shouting, broken objects, or explosive drama. Sometimes, it's quieter, more unsettling. A narcissist deprived of supply doesn't always roar. They retreat. They vanish into themselves, folding inward like a shadow at dusk, slipping into a silence that feels almost unnatural. But don't mistake that silence for peace. This is not calm. It's a different kind of chaos, one that brews under the surface where no one can see. When they withdraw, it's because the emptiness inside them has become unbearable. Without the steady stream of validation to remind them they exist, they feel invisible. And for a narcissist, invisibility is worse than death. In this stage, they don't attack outwardly. They turn inward. They brood. They simmer. They hate the reflection in the mirror, but can't look away. They feel abandoned and irrelevant, consumed by self-loathing, anger, and confusion. It's a private war they are fighting inside, and the silence becomes its own storm. Here's the danger, though. Withdrawal is never permanent. That quiet is not the end of the story. It's the intermission. Think of a volcano that goes silent before the eruption. The longer they sit in the shadows, the more their resentment ferments, the more their desperation intensifies. And when they resurface, they do so with more venom, more cunning, and more unpredictability than before. So, while their retreat might feel like relief, like the drama is finally over, know this: the storm hasn't passed. It's waiting. It's gathering. And when they emerge from that darkness, they'll come clawing for their supply with a ferocity sharpened by silence. That's the moment to be most vigilant, because their hunger will be greater, and their mask, already cracked, will be harder for them to hold in place. 6. The smear campaign begins. This is the point where things descend into their ugliest form. When the narcissist realizes they can no longer reach you through charm, anger, or guilt, when the usual arsenal of manipulation fails, they switch to their most venomous weapon: lies. And not harmless little lies, but ones designed to poison everything around you. Cut off from your validation, they go on the offensive. They'll paint themselves as the wounded victim and you as the cruel aggressor. In their desperation, they will take your reputation and drag it through the dirt, twisting your words until they no longer resemble the truth, reframing your actions as betrayals, and rewriting your entire story so they remain the hero or the martyr. The smear campaign isn't just a tactic, it's a disease, spreading silently through their circle of influence, infecting anyone still susceptible to their charm. Make no mistake, this isn't just pettiness. It's a calculated strike, a full-blown attempt at character assassination. They want you branded as unstable, irrational, untrustworthy. Because in their mind, if they can't have you, the next best thing is making sure no one else does. The smear campaign isn't about truth, it's about survival. They are preserving their image at any cost, even if it means destroying yours. And yet, here's the paradox. They never realize that lies rot from within. Sooner or later, the mask they wear starts to crack. People begin to notice the inconsistencies. Friends, family, colleagues, all the ones who once believed the narrative, start piecing things together. The truth surfaces, because no facade lasts forever. Until then, you're left standing in the storm, watching them wage a war built on fabrication. It's brutal, it's cruel, but it's also revealing. Their smear campaign exposes the depths of their desperation and shows you, more clearly than ever, the true nature of a narcissist. They would rather burn everything to the ground than be exposed as powerless. 7. The illusion of control fades. Picture someone clinging to a rope that's slipping faster the harder they grip. That is the narcissist without supply, desperately grasping at control that no longer exists, their knuckles white with panic as everything slips out of reach. Control isn't just a preference for them. It's their lifeblood, their addiction. Without it, they don't know who they are. When their supply dries up, they scramble. They'll try every trick in the book: gaslighting, guilt trips, intimidation, even false promises of change, all in a frantic attempt to pull you back under their control. But what they don't realize is that in their desperation, they become transparent. Every move exposes them further. Every manipulation looks more obvious. Every word reeks of fear. The empire they built on illusions begins to crumble, and you can see the cracks spreading across the mask they thought would never slip. They'll attempt to charm you one day and threaten you the next. They'll beg, bargain, or rage. But it doesn't matter what disguise they wear, because the truth is written all over them. They are unraveling. And the moment you refuse to play along, their power evaporates. The control they worshipped, the narrative they carefully crafted, the web of manipulation they spun so tightly, all of it disintegrates before their eyes. Here lies the cruelest truth for them. Control only works when others submit. The second you stop feeding them, their grip is gone. They aren't the towering, unshakable force they pretended to be. They are just another frightened person, stripped of their illusions, staring down the reality they've avoided their entire life. And that's the moment of collapse. When the illusion fades, when the mask falls, they are left standing in the wreckage of their own creation, with nothing but the cold mirror of who they really are. So, here's the reality you need to understand. When a narcissist loses their supply, they don't simply recover and move on as if nothing happened. What you've done is far more devastating. You've cracked through the grandiose facade they hide behind, unleashed a storm of inner chaos they can no longer control, and left them scrambling in panic. In their desperation, they'll beg for your attention, explode in rage, and twist every tactic of manipulation they can muster. Yet beneath all of that noise, one truth remains. They are lost without the fuel you once provided. Without it, their power disintegrates, and they are forced to confront the hollowness they've spent a lifetime covering up. And here's the turning point that changes everything. The moment you stop feeding their ego, you reclaim your strength. You strip away their illusion of control and reveal them for what they are: fragile, frantic, and powerless in ways they can never admit. They are no longer the towering presence they pretended to be. They are exposed, and nothing terrifies them more than being seen for who they really are. If this pulled back the curtain for you, don't just walk away. Make sure you stay connected. Hit that like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more unfiltered truths about the world of narcissism. And trust me, what's ahead will dive even deeper. You don't want to miss what's coming next.